You know that little spike of panic when your phone battery hits 1%? Turns out that feeling is actually a perfect window into a 2,500-year-old idea about how pretty much everything works. We're going to connect an ancient Pali word with that very modern feeling of dread, and trust me, you'll be surprised at how deep this connection really goes. Right? We've all been there, frantically looking for a charger, watching the screen dim. It's like this tiny daily crisis. But what if that brief moment of panic isn't really about your phone at all? What if it's a perfect pocket-sized model for understanding a much bigger, much older truth about how our world operates? Okay, so think about it. Your phone dies and recharges every single day, but we never really stop to think about what's actually happening. It's not just a technical process. It's this perfect, self-contained cycle that shows us a fundamental law of existence. So every single time you tap an icon on your screen, you're doing way more than just opening an app. In the ancient language of Pali, this action is called jati. Now, it doesn't just mean birth in the way we usually think of it. It's more like execution or activation. You've just kicked off a process, and by doing that, you've also started the countdown to its inevitable end. And this process of decay, it happens in two pretty clear phases. First, there's that gradual wear and tear. The lag, the phone getting hot, the battery draining faster and faster. That part is called Jara. Then comes the final moment. The battery hits zero, and the screen just goes black. That's maran, the shutdown. It's not a surprise, it's the guaranteed outcome of that initial execution. So when we put those two concepts together, Jara and maran, we get this Pali word, jarāmaraṇa. Now, for centuries, this word has been translated in a way that sounds, well, let's just say a little intimidating. But we're going to look at it through a whole new lens, one that focuses on function, not on fear. The common translation is aging and death, which, immediately brings up all this heavy existential dread. But what if we translated it based on what it does? What if we understood it as decay and shutdown? All of a sudden, it's not some personal catastrophe. It's a neutral, totally predictable system process, just like a machine powering down. So let's break it down. First part, Jara. It comes from a root that means to wear out or to corrode. So it's not just about getting wrinkles. It's about any system losing its structural integrity as it consumes energy. Think of it as the slow, steady decay of a machine that's being used. And the second part, maran, simply means to stop, to cease. It's the final point where the flow of energy just stops and the process can't go on anymore. It's a system shutdown, not some grand, mysterious event. It's the phone screen turning off, the engine running out of gas, the fire burning out. Simple as that. So here's the key takeaway right here. Jarāmaraṇa is the inevitable, predictable process where any system that gets activated, that's jati, will necessarily wear down, that's Jara, as it functions until it ultimately, and I mean always, shuts off. That's maran. It's not a tragedy, it's just a law of nature. And this isn't just about phones or some ancient philosophy. No, this is a fundamental principle that applies to countless systems, both natural and the ones we've built ourselves. Seriously, once you start looking for this pattern of activation, decay, and shutdown, you will see it absolutely everywhere. Let's run through a few surprising examples. Think about a piece of software. When you first install it, it works perfectly. But over time, as the world around it changes, it starts to lag and glitch. That's Jara. And eventually, it's no longer supported and just won't even run. That's maran, the shutdown. Or how about a sandcastle? You build it. That's jati. And from that very moment, the wind and the sun begin their slow, relentless work of erosion. That's Jara. The final wave that washes it away, the maran, isn't the real cause of its destruction. It's just the dramatic finale to a process that began with the very first grain of sand you packed together. And maybe the most elegant analogy of all is a candle. The moment you light it, jati, it begins consuming its own fuel. The very act of producing light is the act of its own destruction. That is Jara. Burning and disappearing are one in the same process. The final flicker, maran, is simply the moment the fuel is all gone. So, by reframing jarāmaraṇa this way, we shift our focus from a fearful outcome, death, to a functional cause. And that one little shift, it changes everything. And here it is. This is the crucial shift in perspective. We spend so much energy worrying about the shutdown, the end of the line. But the shutdown is a guaranteed neutral outcome. The real power, the real place for our attention is at the very beginning. Why did we press start in the first place? The logic here is just unbreakable.
If you have activation, you will have decay and shutdown. So the real question is, what causes the activation? Well, the ancient texts point to something called upadana. And this word has a fascinating double meaning. It means both fuel and clinging or attachment. It's our clinging to an idea, a feeling, or desire that acts as the fuel for the next startup.
And this leads us to a really powerful and honestly liberating conclusion. If you want to stop the results, the inevitable decay and shutdown, you can't fight it at the end of the process. It's too late. You have to go back and address the cause. You have to stop fueling the initial activation. So what does this actually mean for our daily lives? Well, it means our power lies not in preventing the inevitable end of a process, but in consciously choosing which processes we activate in the first place. The very first step is to let go of the fear. The shutdown of a process, even the process of our own lives, isn't some personal annihilation. It's just the natural, neutral termination of a conditioned system. It's a reset. The you that you think of as this solid, permanent thing is actually a constantly changing process. And when the conditions that sustain that process end, the process just stops. So the real takeaway here isn't to dwell on the inevitable shutdown, but to become kind of a detective of your own inner world. Start investigating the fuel. What are the attachments, the desires, the ideas, the upadana that you keep feeding into your system, causing it to start up again and again and again? Because in the end, the shutdown is a given. That's not where the game is played. The real game is in choosing the fuel. The only true power you have is in what you decide to activate next. So take a look at your life. What processes are you feeling right now? And are they the ones you truly want to be running?